Hi, I'm Rob Van Hoff with Rob on the Rock. Today we're going to look at an ancient manuscript of the Gospel of John. It's just a fragment. It's known as Papyrus number 52. There's a lot for us to learn from this papyrus. Shalom, welcome to Rob on the Rock. Today I want to look at what's known as Papyrus number 52. Right now you see a picture of this very small fragment from the University of Manchester website. You can go to this website yourself. I've provided the link below and view this. You can see the fragment here on the left of the screen. It allows you to zoom way in. Look at the detail here. This is on a papyrus. Again, it's the technology. And you can even rotate the text if you want. It's a really cool user interface that they have here. And it's two sides, of course, so you can see the whole fragment right here. That's page 1, or the flip side here. Now, why is P52 such a cool manuscript? Well, it's dated to the 2nd century AD, so it's nearly 2,000 years old. But it's got a text from the Gospel of John. That's the text that is on this manuscript. And you can read a description of it in the right-hand column here. I won't read that for you. You can go and read from the University of Manchester website. But basically, it is not a scroll. We know it's from what we call a codex. So a scroll, like a Torah scroll, for example, were written just on one side and then rolled up. Well, here we can see that both sides of this papyrus fragment have writing, and they're both from John 18, and they're very close together. So we know that a person would read one side and then turn the page and continue writing. And the early Christians were the ones that really adopted. They didn't invent the book or the codex, but they adopted it and refined it and really were a part of a transformation of technology in the world with the use of the book. By just this small fragment and the lines that are available here, and what can be estimated from this information is that it was likely a booklet about 8 by 8 inches, roughly 8 inches by 8 inches. And if there was probably 18 lines per page. So we can see here the upper margin. The lower margin, of course, is broken. And if the estimation is, if this codex contained the entire Gospel of John, given that information, roughly how many words per line or how many characters were available per line, 18 lines per page, it would be about 130 pages if that was a complete Gospel of John. Of course, we do not know that it was a complete Gospel of John. It might have just been select portions. And a 130-page papyrus would be a pretty decent size book, 8 by 8 inch. And so my gut is that it probably wasn't an entire Gospel of John. If there were, there would be multiple booklets together comprising the whole Gospel of John. But 8 by 8 is the size that would be, movable. You could take that around with you. Even if it was a few booklets together that comprised the Gospel of John in Greek, you could travel with that fairly easily. It'd be lightweight, small. You'd need some way to protect it, maybe a box or a leather binding overall, or a bag to put it in. But I think that it would be very transportable. Now, what we're going to do here is just to give you another look, I've brought the image into my drawing program so I can show you both sides here with the image taken from that University of Manchester website, along with the translation. So you can kind of see what's going on here. Now I can zoom in, which is nice here, and you can see what we got going on here. What I have on the right in the dark color, the bold, that corresponds to what is legible from the Greek over here on the left-hand side. And so side 1, we have John 18, the part of 31 through 33. And so at the beginning it says, the Jews, we, that's what we have here, hoi Judaioi, and then it says, we, and then we are not permitted to put to death anyone. So we have udena here, that's anyone. Hina, in order that, halagas, it goes on, in order the word that Yeshua spoke would, to fulfill. And it said that he spoke signifying, right? And that's this, apen, right? He spoke signifying what kind of death he was about to die. So you can see that even though we don't have a complete passage, we have enough fragments to identify this as John 18, 31 through 33. And certainly as we cross over and turn the page, we see it continue with verses 37 through 38. So this is how scholars estimate that there must have been, given the size of these letters and what we have for the margin, how many lines there must have been in order for it to work out, that on the very next page we would find these verses, 37 through 38. For this I have been born, that's this here, and come into the world in order to testify. Whoever is of the truth hears my voice of the truth. So we see here in P52 enough evidence to say this is indeed the Gospel of John. We know that it is a very old, probably 2nd century manuscript. It is on papyrus, which is Egyptian book technology. It's written in a codex form, that is in a bound pages rather than a scroll, which corresponds to our understanding of early Christian book culture. The last note here, for those who really like Greek, I have the Greek down below here from these passages with the bold Greek text singled out from all of the Greek text original to the Gospel of John. So I'm going to go back to the University of Manchester website here, and we're going to go back to this image here. And one other feature you can take advantage of on this website is you can view the full image like that. So it does a full screen, and then you can zoom way in. Isn't that neat? Udena, that's Udena. So Omicron, Upsilon, that's a delta right there. Let me make that a little more center so you can see it. Oops. Omicron, Upsilon looks like a Y. That's a delta. That's an epsilon. A nu looks just like a letter N. And then the alpha looks just like a certain kind of letter A's that we use in certain fonts. One other note is the use of diaeresis here, which is 2 dots above an initial iota. So here we see hoi Judaioi, the Judeans, and it's, I'll take you through here. So it's Omicron, iota, that's hoi, that means the, plural, and then we have iota with the 2 dots above, one of them's faded, but that's the iota. Initial iota is marked by that little signal above it. Iota, Omicron, upsilon. There's a delta, Udai. There's an alpha here that you can barely see, and then the rest of it, iota, and then oi is mixing, but it's the Jews. Hoi Judaioi, hoi Judaioi. We see another initial iota here, or iota, however you want to call that, with the double dots above it for the word hina, in order that. Finally, so that's just another look at that, is to compare this 2nd century Greek manuscript and the quality of the scribal work with another 2nd century manuscript we have of the 2nd chapter, or the 2nd book of the Iliad, rather. And I'm just going to zoom in. This is just from the archive.com of the Oxyrhensis Papyri. Let's see here. I'm going to zoom in. And so you can see. So here is another papyrus. Now, of course, this is not biblical. This is from the Iliad. But notice here. So roughly the same age. It's also found in Egypt. It is a papyrus. It is written in Greek, and it has a nice margin above. But look at how clean these letters are. This was what we would call a professional scribal product here, just as old. But if we compare this work with the work of the scribe of the Gospel of John here in P52, we can see quite a difference. Now, some of the letters are made the same. The omicrons, the what looks like a capital C here is a sigma, which we see the sigma here. So a lot of the basic character formation is the same. The alpha and the lambda are a little bit different here. The alpha you can see is more squiggly in P52, where here we have something that looks just like, almost like a capital letter A in the Latin alphabet that we use. So we would say that this was written a little more speedily, quickly, and less carefully. That is this manuscript of the Gospel of John. It wasn't produced by a professional scribe who had resource of time and money and materials, but rather was written. Certainly they had material. They had a nice papyrus, and they had ink that would last, of course. Otherwise we wouldn't be seeing this. Sadly, we don't know what happened to the rest of this manuscript, but it was written in a little bit sloppier hand, although still legible, still very, very legible and carefully spaced and nicely consistent, but not as the pristine kind of elite Greek that we see as written in this manuscript here of the Iliad of the same age. So that's just a little bit of background on P52, manuscript dated to the 2nd century, containing sections from the Gospel of John, chapter 18. Hope this was informative for you and makes you curious about how the book or the codex became a vehicle for transmitting the Word of God in the last 2,000 years, way before the printing press, of course. Shalom.